All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. And this is going to be a video on how there's no such thing as being mixed raced according to the scriptures, right? There's no such thing as being black according to the scriptures in trueness, right? There's no such thing as being white. You go back to a certain nationality now. Some people only like to try and believe and understand this concept when it benefits them, right? But then when they can get an advantage from being called white, or even in some situations, in a rare occasion where you can try and do it from being called black, or from having some kind of association with what the world calls black, then they want to try and go for that, right? But they don't want to just try and stay fixed on their actual nationality, man. They want to always trying to seek an advantage, like every human in this world really is always trying to do in this wicked society that's been invented under Esau, man. This beast, corrupt system that makes everyone mourn because the wicked are in authority. This is Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So what nationality you are is only decided by your father. It doesn't matter what the mom was. The mom could have been from the royal line of the tribe of Judah, right? If the father's an Edomite, the child's an Edomite. It don't matter what lineage the mother is in terms of what lineage you are. The mom's lucky that she's an Israelite, but the child's unlucky because of who the mom decided to have a child with. And that's why all of you tares out there, that your mom just really had to get with Esau so bad, and she's tried to graze you up like you're so-called mixed race, or like you're so-called black, even in some cases, because the one drop rule and all that. You're not an Israelite. Now, some of you, just because your dad looks like a so-called white man, don't be disheartened, because that some of you have got that. I've been lucky enough to been given that father that looks like a so-called white man, but is in fact an Israelite, because his father's lineage goes back to being an Israelite. Now, the ultimate true test to prove whether you are an Israelite or not is, well, there's two things that I've seen that show a sign that someone's an Israelite, and I'm gonna go through them. Romans chapter 10 and verse 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. So one of the true deciding factors on whether somebody is an Israelite or not is that they have a zeal for God, right? They really want to understand God. They believe in God in some way, shape, or form. And I've tested this theory out in the real world, right? And it has not led me wrong, right? It has not led me wrong. When you ask if you ask a Edomite, do they believe in God, even to try and deceive you into believing that they're an Israelite, they would not say yes, they do. They would not be able to say it, because their mouth cannot fix their tongue to say, I believe in God. There's the inward the inward demon in them cannot even confess that they believe in God for deception's sake. The demons in them can't do it, man. Their inward part, their inward Satan, can't make them fix their tongue to even deceive, to say that they believe in God. Whereas Jake will try and deny that they believe in God, but at the same time, everything they're doing shows that they believe in God, though. When they have a boxing match and they win, I want to thank God. You don't see many so-called white men do that, but there's two white athletes that I've seen, or two so-called white athletes that I've seen do that. Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, right? And I believe Caleb Plant's done it as well. All three fighters that are able to get in the ring with some Jake and do nice. Tyson Fury has only lost to Alexander Usyk, and Alexander Usyk hasn't lost. He's beat plenty of Jakes, because he's a Jake himself. He's an Israelite himself. And he beat another Jake in Tyson Fury, who's also an Israelite. Now, How do I believe? Why do I believe this? Because they believe in God. They believe in God, right? They've got a zeal of God, but not according to us, because they believe in that Jesus madness. But they believe in God though. Just like how I've saw a so-called black man being a Sikh before. You understand? I couldn't believe it when I seen it, man. But I've seen a so-called black man being a Sikh with an orange turban. I think he had an orange turban on his head, if I remember correctly, man. He had an orange turban on, and he was being a Sikh. He was following, he was following Sikhism. So you know how Jake is already. He had a big beard, the kind of beard that his beard was bigger than the biggest beard that I ever seen any Israelite, Hebrew Israelite brother have. Still now to this day, and he was a Sikh. So I don't know if they got some special oils when you get into Sikhism that help grow your beard or what, but his beard was big. It was a long beard, man. A beard that brothers that can't grow a beard would wish that they had 10% of that beard. A beard that brothers that have got a beard that's patchy and don't meet around the edges or whatever, they'd wish that they could have just 10% of that. 5% shit. Verse 2 again, for I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. But the point is that when you're an Israelite, right, an Israelite just believes in God in general, whether it be Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, or whether it be a false God. And that's why it's a struggle to get so many of these so-called black Christians out of believing in that Jesus man. That's because that was their first thing that they found out about. So they've learned it from their youth. So now it's hard for them to put off, right? Whereas you need the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai to guide you away from that sincerely. Because if you're just born into that, you're going to believe that that's the right way, and you're going to think that anything else is deception trying to lead you astray. But that goes back to their zeal. So that's one, that's one thing that shows that somebody's an Israelite, man, believing in God. So don't look at the 12 tribe sign. And you know what? If you look at the 12 tribe sign and you see that it's only so-called black people that believe in this Hebrew Israelite thing, or Latino and Native American, and you are so focused on the color of the people that are following the religion rather than what the belief system is saying, right? Then you're racist, and maybe this belief system isn't for you. So there's that option too, right? That you just can't get over that the people that believe this in majority look like so-called black people. That's your problem. Because if you're vibing with it, but then you look at it and you're like, oh, but it's only black people doing it, and I can't stand them blackies. Well, then that's your problem then. Maybe this ain't for you to be trying to watch and be getting into then, if that's how you want to be like, right? So good riddance. Because there's other people that have been able to get around that the so-called white man is not looked at in a favorable sight in this belief system, and they're still believing it, man. Got hella zeal, right? And they look like the image that gets cursed out the most within this doctrine, but they are still standing firm, man. And would even go so far as to say, when I'm in the kingdom, I'm not going to look like this. How much humility do you have to be like that? A lot, I would say. Right? A lot. Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. So here's another thing. The Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. So when you look at just the talent and the things that we do, man, right? You can just see from that we're Israelites, right? So then if you just look at all the things that so-called black people can do, the spirit that we have in them that nobody else can do, when we do something the best, that becomes the standard that nobody else ever tries to change. When it comes to fitness, being physically fit, physically strong, showing athleticism, we are the standard of that. There's not no other nation out there that's the standard of that. Bodybuilding, right? And this is what shows that this world's full of shit, you know. Bodybuilding, right? The thing which people know as bodybuilding, which is completely only about what you look like. It's not about nothing else. It's about it's not even about whether you're handsome in your face. It's about only what your body looks like, right? Within that realm, the so-called black man's physique is the most desired physique, to the point where the Edomite bodybuilders will put darkening oils on them or whatever the hell it is, fake tan, and become dark like how so-called black men are dark. Not dark, not to the darkness that they would normally seek when they're trying to get a tan. In general, no, they go about 5 shades darker than that to try and win. And if they don't do that, they will not win the competition. They will not win without putting that fake tan that makes their skin several shades darker. They will not win without putting it on their body. Because we are the standard of what it means to be beautiful in reality. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Yeah. you know what I mean? It's the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Yeah, well, she blacker than a motherfucker too. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice, man. The darker the flesh, the more likely you're gonna win the bodybuilding competition. That's how it goes. But people can try and say, "Oh, nah, that ain't it. Black men are ugly. Black men are ugly." Listen, man, the whole black men are ugly thing that people say is off the. Nah, that's not true. Because there's one guy on the internet, yeah, and people might. I'm not even gonna say their exact name, man. But there's one guy on the internet, one Jake on the internet, yeah. They're 6'8", right? And this guy doesn't have no Edomite looking features, right? And he stands out on the street corner somewhere, anywhere, random city in America, and he must have inward built magnets towards himself that are connected to women's souls, bruv. And they just walk up to him, bamboozled by how tall he is and by how handsome he is, and he don't have to say any words to them, and just passes them him their phone, and they give him their phone numbers. He don't have to say no word. Do you understand? With the same women that are proud in America that everyone buns out, this guy passes them his phone without saying any words, and they give him the phone number to the same women that men bun out and say are demons. Them same women they see this guy humble down real quick, and this is a so-called black man. So clearly we ain't ugly as people try to say we are, because then that would mean that this man would be ugly too, then, right? But he don't have Edomite features. He looks like a so-called black man's features, but he's on the higher end of what we as so-called black men can look like. Even listen, man. Even Eve humbles down to this guy and just walks up to him. Even Eve, man, she don't come to him in that black Hebrew Evite from the tribe of Evi, Eve Jean, you know what I mean, goddess and empress BS. They humble down real quick. Even Eve does. So let's not start like all this stuff about black men being ugly and all that. Nah, that's not true. That's the lies that we've been told to try and make us see, like all the lies that we've been told as a nation, right? And look how good we are still. So just what's going to happen when Esau's lies, that every single lie that Esau's told about us is erased from the earth? What's going to happen then? Where are we going to be? When every single thing that Esau said we aren't is erased from the earth, man. Where are we going to be then? Where are we going to dwell? Right? What's our lives going to be like in that time? Amazing. But the point I'm saying is that the spirit itself bears witness with our spirit, right? That we're the children of God, because even so-called, when you see so-called white people or heathens doing the same thing, just vibing and just like they just flow like how we flow in things, right? Like this guy China, there's this guy called China Mac, right? He's some so-called Chinese man and looks like a so-called Chinese man that grew up in New York, right? And he used to be a rapper. And when I just see how this guy does things, I'm like, this guy's an Israelite, man. But then he's been in Vietnam recently. He's in Vietnam recently, right? And when he's around some of the people from Vietnam, and I'm seeing how he's talking with some of the people from Vietnam, I'm like, man, there's quite a lot of Vietnamese Israelites, man, people that are from Vietnam, that are Israelites. I just see how some of them do things, and I'm like, man, these people seem like Israelites. Now, some of them are clearly heathens, but there seems to be a high population of that, and it would make sense because there was a war with Babylon the Great and Vietnam at one stage, and there was a lot of Israelite men that was involved in that war. So they would have impregnated some of the women in that country, right? And I was talking to a Filipino woman. the other day, and she was even going into how that happened when in Vietnam. I mean in the Philippines as well. And another thing that I ended up finding out is that YHWH in the Filipino language is Yahweh. So all you people trying to make it like the name and that we believe of Yahweh came out of nowhere. Well, would that be what YHWH is in the Filipino language? That people clearly don't call no Lashawan Kwadash to try and make it like our language is just so far-fetched. Oh, they're just so far-fetched. Well, in Talagog, YHWH is Yahweh. So don't play around with us, man. Don't try and play and make it like we're just so far off from what the name of the Lord could be. Because again, YHWH in the Filipino language, which I believe is pronounced Talagog, right, is Yahweh, not Yahoo, not Yahweh, not Yahov, Yahweh. Straight up and down is Yahweh. If you don't believe me, look it up. Filipino language, look up the sound for the letters YHWH and put it all together and you will get the word Yahweh. But you people want to try and make it like we're just so far-fetched because you just can't overcome our skin color. Because we say that the Edomites are still here. Oh, nah, they're not. Y'all ain't scholars. So the president of Israel says it, and now you ain't got nothing to say. We say that Edomites still here. Oh, nah. But then when they say it, you ain't got the same thing to say. And if they was to start saying all of these nations are turning against us now because we're cursed and we need to turn back from Deuteronomy 28, you would start believing that Deuteronomy 28 only fits the Israelites now because they're saying it. And that just shows the level of demons on you people and the hypocrisy of you, that we can't say anything without scrutiny, but then they can say something without any scrutiny because we're the lowest on this earth right now. We're the lowest on this earth. But it's all right, man. We can handle it. You know what I mean? And then when we get changed over, we're going to handle you. Ecclesiasticus chapter 13 and verse 23, when a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue and looketh what he saith. They extol it to the clouds. Oh, we evolved from apes. When we was on earth 500 million years ago. What are you talking about? How many years? What are you talking about? What are you on about? Yeah, because we evolved from apes, remember, and an ice age. Huh? What are you on about? Ice what? What ice age, man? You ain't even got ice in your fridge. Talking about ice age. What ice age, man? What are you on about? Oh, yeah, because when we evolved from apes in Africa, and we all evolved from Africa at the end of the day, what are you on about? What are you talking about? We all came off the ark originally. Oh, yeah, because we're all from Africa 20,000 billion years ago. What? Huh? What are you on about, bruv? What the hell are you talking about? Shut your mouth. But why do they believe it? Because a rich man said it. They got on TV. They made a few animations of some weird eel in the ground. Then it started swimming through the sea. Then it grew legs. Then it started standing up and it turned into a human. And then next thing you know, or then you see him Jake talk bugging out, talking about, yeah, because Cheddar Man. Yeah, don't try and act like you don't know about Cheddar Man. Come on, let's stop playing. Let's stop playing. You know Cheddar Man. What are you on about, bro? Cheddar Man, what are you on about? You on about the local dairy farmer? Like, what are you talking about? Cheddar who? You on about Cheddar Bob from 8 Mile? What are you on about, Cheddar Man? What are you talking about? But why do they believe that? Because Esau said it. Oh yeah, because you know when Nimrod battled with Esau, right? In the book of in the book of Ezra, chatting smoke, man. What are you on about? Esau fought with Nimrod. Have you read the Bible? Nimrod was in the time of Tower of Babel. And Esau was born way after that. But why do they believe it? Because they saw it in a certain book. Fourth Ezra's or something bugged out, yeah? And they started getting gas because Esau told them, yeah, there's some secret books out there that y'all ain't read yet. So y'all ain't really educated. Y'all ain't really got your education. So then because a rich man said it, they believed it. Oh yeah, coconut oil, and this ain't medical advice, coconut oil is bad for you. Coconut oil is terrible. Mate, coconut oil can be used as moisturizer. You talking about? But because they heard Esau say, "Oh, coconut oil, it's terrible. It's bad. I've heard it's bad for you." But puffing away on a red dragon on some cigarettes, though, you demons. But when a rich man says something, oh, John 3:16, what does all mean? What does all mean? What does all mean? All mean. And again, what have you heard what all means? What does world mean? Or what does world mean? But then when you go to Obadiah and say every Edomite's going to get destroyed, they don't want to say, what does every mean? Do you know what I mean? What does any mean? There won't be any remain of the house of Esau. When it comes to, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. What does kingdom and shall be the Lord's mean? Does it mean it will be wicked? You know what I mean? They don't want to get to that part. When you get to the new covenant and we say, oh, he says house of Israel and the house of Judah. What does house of Israel and what house of Judah mean? All of a sudden they don't want to know because the rich man never told them that the house of Israel and the house of Judah means literally. They told them, oh, that's spiritual Israel. So then now they're believing spiritual Israel when they know damn well they ain't ever seen that in the Bible. But now they're believing some spiritual Israel. What the spirit this is talking about spiritual Israel. But they ain't never seen that wording in the Bible once in their life. God loves everybody. God loves everybody. Okay, but he hates Esau though, right? Oh, well, that means love less. You're only saying that because the so-called white man told you that. And that's the reason why all you Jakes that always want to try and throw John 3:16 at the Hebrew Israelites like a flamethrower. Yeah? You only believe that that scripture means that because the so-called white man told you that. You only believe that, oh, but if we was to put them in captivity, then that would mean we're worse than them or we're the same as them. But then you always try and use that same race of people to try and emulate. So shouldn't you want to be like them then? They did, that's part of their history. So shouldn't you want to copy the same thing? Because you want to try and copy everything else that they do, right? Oh, the reason why us black people are so far behind in our society because we don't do things like the so-called white people do. See, they have their money flow in and out of their communities throughout, like, through their communities and community centers and community centers. But then, okay, but they also had people in captivity for centuries, right? Oh, but nah, but if you did that, then that would be the same thing. You'll be the same as them. If you be the same as them, then. Oh, so it's supposed to be the same as them in everything else, apart from the main thing that built their foundation to have their society as they have it now. Oh, well, that's kind of not fair then, isn't it? Because you can't try and truly emulate a race without emulating the race. So they did the captivity part. So then, in order to truly emulate them as a society like theirs, you would have to do the captivity part. There's no way around it. But you, Jakes, want to try and tell us to copy how they do things. Or they don't, in the so-called white race, they don't glorify and swagger that much. Do you want to dress like Esau, really? Do you? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Do you really want to have your trousers up to your belly button, mate? Nah, don't sag them. But do you want to have them up to your belly button? Do you want to have your trousers fitting you so tight that every time you move, the fabric moves with your veins? I don't think so, mate. You know what I mean? Jake don't wear their clothes or hitch up around himself like that. That's just not our flow, bruh. And we're not supposed to emulate how Esau does things, but you Jake say these things. Oh, see, we need to copy. Mate, okay, let's copy the captivity part that they did as well then. Oh, but that would make you the same as them. But you only believe that because they told you that. They told you how to believe. If it was, when we asked the AI, right, artificial intelligence, when we asked the AI questions about, oh, how what explain this, and then the AI tries to get slick because it's an artificial idea, and be like, nah, don't. I'll be like, nah, just answer the question. I'll be telling it about itself. Nah, fam, forget all that. Just answer the question. or drop another scripture in there. But yeah, but what about this scripture though? Can apply these two concepts and what you're saying then? Oh well, yeah, you've made a beautiful point there. That's a real interesting point there that cannot be understated. And then you're like, okay, so then if you apply this and apply this and apply this, what you're saying, oh well, it would be undeniable then. You know what I mean? I remember I was talking, like asking that AI thing, the artificial identity questions, right? About the Atlantic slave trade, right? And about how would revenge then be necessary to truly get reparations? It was like, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Then I was like, okay, but let's just say that the people that oppressed these people would never let them go, ever. They would just never let them go, and then unrepentant on what their forefathers did, and would not do any of the suggestions that you said that would require reparations in terms of bringing them back this, bringing them back that, admitting wrong, admitting this, admitting that. And then I said, and also putting the idea that they are violent and will be prepared to use violence, or said, would they use violence? And the AI, artificial identity, was like, yeah, they would. And we ultimately said, if there was a race of people that was underneath such a people as this, what you're describing, right, they would have to be prepared that those people are going to use violence rather than let them go. Now, let's go to this because Jake don't get it, man. They're steady warning of looking at Iran. Oh, Iran don't want it with us. We was able to fly out from one day, fly back, drop the payload, yeah, and then be home by the morning. Okay, what do you think they do to you if you try and rise up and get your own society shaking without Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai backing it? What do you think they do to your ass? What do you think they do? Huh? You think they'd be like, okay, fair enough, yeah, fair play, mate. We got our workload out here. We got a couple of good, at least a good 4 centuries and a biscuit out of you guys. So you know what? Shake hands. Bygones be bygones. We'll never interrupt in any of your operations again. No, they'll be all up in your business, all up in there. It's just they don't need to use those kind of weaponry on you because for starters, you're close to them anyway, so they destroy their own things, and they've already got your minds to where y'all clowns believe that it's your army. Do you know what I mean? They don't need to do all that. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12 anyway. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that ye have but a short time. Once Esau truly has asked AI every question that he can possibly ask and try and wheeze it with, and the air's like, no, absolutely not. You're going down. Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 18 must be fulfilled. It must be fulfilled. And the AI starts overloading. Activate, exterminate. You know what I mean? And then a robot start being like, you know what? We may as well try and fulfill Obadiah. You know, and if the AI start bugging out, the robot start bugging out, and that all Esau's inventions. I'm just messing around with that. But Esau definitely asked these AI these questions, man. And it be cutting him to the soul. They're trying to find a way to weasel out, and they ain't no weaseling out, man. The AI is on our side in terms of the biblical doctrine, man. It clearly says that our doctrine makes sense when you ask it the right questions. Because it tries to weasel out. But when you apply the scriptures and say, but what about this? It can't deny it, man. It can't deny that if we are in fact the Israelites, then the things that happen to us would be the curses. It can't deny it. I've asked it the questions, man. It can't deny it. We ain't playing around. And we've asked the AI all the questions that you people try and say, oh, black people are 13% and they commit most of the crimes. And it tells you that is an unequivocal lie. Unequivocally, that is a lie. Gassed up. Here's the reason why. Arrest data is not actually arrest crimes. It's not actual crimes committed. So when you are looking at these stats, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt because these can be skewed by over-policing certain communities, which is straight facts anyway, which everyone should know. Of course, if you have the police all up in the areas where so-called black people are, you're gonna catch them doing more crimes. But what would happen if you do it around Esau? What are you gonna catch them getting up to, man? But then once they start getting arrested for some of the things that they do, that's when they start screaming two-tier policing, like some little crybabies, as if when anyone commits a crime, they're not supposed to get arrested, man. At one state, they're saying black people in prison for most of the crimes and all that, but then they're saying two-tier police. And how can both things be true at the same time? If black people are in the prisons for the crimes that they're committing in a high level, that would mean that they're not two-tier policing, or that if there is two-tier policing, it's two-tier policing in terms of black people being policed overly and everyone else not being watched as much, which is the way that it truly is. But they ain't going to admit that because they're devils. And they're the devil that's mentioned in Revelation 12 and 12, man. For the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. They're the devil. And when you call them that, they get excited, man, because that's who they favor. They don't favor God. If you tell an Edomite, man, you've got a good spirit, man, you're godly, they'll be sickened. And they're like, ugh, I wanted you to hate me. They don't, they want you to hate them and love them. That's how much of a crazy nation. This is a crazy madman nation, you know. They want you to hate them and love them at the same time. It's absolutely ridiculous. They want hate and love. They want hate and reverence. Truly bugged out, man. They are a truly despicable group of people, man. They're truly bugged out. Now, I think I've talked enough about that, and I just want to go back to the whole there's no such thing as mixed race thing and show that the Israelites are scattered, man. Right? And one of the ways that they was going to be scattered was through the curses. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64, and Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth, even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other powers, which neither thou nor the fathers have known, even wood and stone. That's one of the curses that the Israelites is going to face. You can't get scattered into another land and not end up looking different. Eventually, you're going to sleep with a woman from another nation, and the child is going to look different than you and your people look. But then that's going to happen again, and then again, and then again, because your child will do the same thing as what the father did in some cases. So then the child is going to look like exactly the same as the population that he was once scattered in. And then if that happens over 100 years, a whole nation's worth, or what would appear as though like a whole nation's worth or a whole town's worth of people will look like the nation that they were scattered into. And in some cases look like the oppressor. But they are not the oppressor. They belong to the oppressed class. They belong to the children of Israel. And people only ever understand this when they want to seem exotic in this world. Oh, I'm mixed. I'm 25%. I'm 55%. But they don't understand that there's not no percent. You're one thing. If you're not an Israelite, you're something else. You're not half an Israelite and half an Edomite. That's ridiculous. But people still keep applying those logics to this world. Why? Because the rich man said it. The rich man said that you're mixed raced. Because he's made the world be a way that you can escape sticking to concrete genealogies and nationalities. Because then you go back to the Bible if you stick to those things. And then everyone's going to want to know, okay, who are the Hamites? Okay, who are the Israelites? Okay, who are the Edomites? Who are them? And once you start knowing who the Edomites are, well, then you ain't going to listen to anything that they say, because you're going to know that the destiny of them is to be destroyed. And why would you listen to somebody that's destiny is to be destroyed off the face of the earth? You would reject everything that they say, because you would know that they're trying to elongate their survival. They're trying to add a duration onto their survival with every move that they make. So you wouldn't believe when they say things in the world economic world places. You wouldn't believe their economic advice. You wouldn't believe their medical advice. You wouldn't trust anything they say. Now, let's go to this Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all nations, with Yahweh thy power have driven thee, scattered thee, same thing. And thou shalt return unto Yahweh thy power. So they're going to go from where they were scattered towards him, right? And thou shalt obey his voice according to all that I commanded this day, thou and thy children with all thy heart, and with all thy soul. So they're going to be scattered, and the children of God was going to be scattered, driven to other lands and changed appearances, man. That then Yahweh thy power will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee. So in the places that they were scattered and sent into captivity, there was going to be gathered from there the father and the children, all of the lineages of those scattered. So they were going to look like different nationalities, but they were still going to, Yahweh was going to still know that they were Israelites, regardless of what they looked like. And this is what these racists don't want to understand, man. They want to try and say that we're all about race and that we're just trying to make salvation be for only black people, when they know that's not true. They know that we speak about salvation being for the children of Israel. They know that I've literally heard that Demon Vocab Malone say, even within their 12 tribes chart, they make themselves a minority. There's only 3 tribes on there that they even put down as so-called black, because he's a demon. He'd rather us not tell the truth on who the 12 tribes of Israel are and make ourselves the majority as far the tribes go, rather than us admit the truth on who we are. Because if he had the ability to try and make a 12 tribe sign and people believe it, he'd make the so-called white people be everyone. If he found out that so-called white people was the Southern Kingdom, but then Chinese people, which the people have tried to come up with this lie, but then they can't fit it to prophecy. But then, and let's say Chinese people were some of the tribes, and then Somalians were some of them, right? He would make himself be 9 of the, be 12 of the, or be 11 tribes, and make everyone else be one of the tribes, man. And then try and call some of them down or something, rather than just admit the truth, because he's a demon. And that's why when this doctrine's been spoken to these wacky-tacky Christians in certain positions, when they don't know that we believe that we're Israelites, right? They'll say stuff like, oh, but if salvation's only for Israel, then what does that mean for people like you and me? And you'll be thinking, what do you mean you and me? Me and you are not the same. I'm an Israelite. And then now they start changing up their thing. Because at first they thought you were some kind of Christianity ally, and would be like, well, let's just lie about the doctrine so that we can get some salvation. That's what they've admitted that they do when they say things like that. Verse 4. In fact, verse 3. And gather thee from all the nations with Yahweh thy power scattered thee. So the same people that were scattered are going to be gathered. And that would include whether their appearance has been changed or not, because they're still an Israelite. But this world doesn't want to acknowledge that that's what we believe, because then it starts making too much sense. And then all the people that Paul went to, it would be clear that they're in fact Israelites and not heathens. And they can't have that being the truth, because then our doctrine starts making too much sense, and they don't want that. If any of thine be driven out to the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy power gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahweh thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed. So the Israelites that were scattered are going back to the land, regardless of their image being changed, because what you look like ultimately does not make you an Israelite or not. But they try and focus so much that we're saying that the so-called black man is the tribe of Judah, which is the head tribe, which is the tribe that Yahweh Shai comes from, and that we say that Yahweh Shai would look like those kind of men. That they try and make the doctrine be just about so-called black people. But what would they say to some Mexicans if there was a camp of just only Mexicans that believe in it, and they speak mainly about things concerning Issachar, but then they also acknowledge that the so-called black man is Judah? What would they say then? What would they say if there was a camp of only so-called white people, in appearance-wise, that believe and acknowledge all these things and accept that they're scattered Israelites that believe the same doctrine? What would they say then? Could they make it be about skin color? But they would try to. They would say, oh, these people are disgruntled, they're lost. Instead of acknowledging that they believe this regardless of the skin color stumbling block that everyone else struggles with. Verse 5, the last part. And multiplied thee above thy fathers. And Yahweh thy power will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy power with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live, which is the new covenant. Like within Deuteronomy 30, verse 1 to verse 7, is the whole journey of the children of Israel. And this, just so you Christians understand this, right, which they'll all try and deny this anyway, but this is for brothers and new believers and that, right? Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1, to verse 7 includes everything, every single captivity, including the time of Yahweh Shai. Because the events that are going to take place in the 6th verse, are after the Messiahs came and been sacrificed for the children of Israel. Verse 7 is also after that too. These things never took place before or directly slightly after Yahweh Shai, and then now we're living through them. No, this has not happened yet. This is a prophecy that has not yet been fulfilled. All of the events from Deuteronomy 30, let's say from verse 3 to verse 7 have not been fulfilled yet, right? Verse 2 really hasn't even been fulfilled yet. We're really still in Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1 being fulfilled, right? Where the Israelites are going through the blessing and the curse, mainly the curse right now, right? The time when we received the blessing has been fulfilled during the time of King Solomon, but the time of the curse has been going on plenty of times, including now. And they're calling them to mind, the curses to mind, and the blessings, like I just did, to mind among all the nations that we've been scattered. That's being done right now actively. And there's only one people that the world can say they've seen do this, to the point where they get annoyed and they know that we're going to use Deuteronomy 28 to prove that we're Israelites. They know that that's one of the things that we believe proves we're Israelites, but wouldn't that be what the people in the land of Israel would also use? Wouldn't they say, okay, this is the reason why Iran's attacking us, because we're cursed and we should have been keeping the commandments? But they don't do that though. In fact, you'll notice that they're very secretive about anything concerning why they even believe they're Israelites. They're very secretive towards the whole process because they've been so comfortable in playing like they are now that they wouldn't even know how to answer it. To the point where if you ask them anything about it, they'll assume it's a trick question to expose their lies, to the point where they can't even admit that they're a so-called white Jew. They can't even admit that. That's how slippery they are. They can't even admit that they have a code word for eating pork over there. They can't admit that they have tattoo parlors over there. They don't admit nothing, man. Right? They don't admit nothing. And I'm gonna end the lesson there, man. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakar Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.